Hey everybody, my name is Andy and welcome. I promised to bring you a separate video on specialists in Battlefield 2042, so that's gonna be the focus of this video. Before I continue, I should probably mention that I wasn't invited to the technical playtest, so I don't have any hands-on experience with the game. That means I'm just gonna provide feedback based on what we've learned about specialists from trailers, blog posts and everything in between. Now, I'm sure many of you think it's impossible to give constructive feedback on something you haven't even tried yet, and that's a fair point. However, I've been with this franchise long enough to know that DICE are slow to implement player feedback, so the earlier they get it, the better. With that out of the way, let's talk specialists, and to help us out, we have Daniel Berlin who will explain to us what they're all about.
So the specialists are, so let's take a step back, I think, first, because we looked at this for quite some time in terms of what we wanted to do here. And we looked at a lot of player data, we looked at feedback, and we looked into like the internal sentiment. And there was a lot of things we can also see through the data specifically that a lot of players chose their class based on the primary weapon that was available. Meaning you didn't choose necessarily a recon because of the gadgetry, but you actually chose a recon because you got the bolt action sniper rifles. And you didn't choose your class because you wanted to play a certain role. So that was the thing we wanted to kind of target with this change specifically. We wanted to bring the game into a space that when you choose which specialist to play with, you go like, okay, I want to play this particular role. So what we've done is that basically you have the traditional class, say recon, is more of a category now. And underneath that category, you have multiple specialists that has a gameplay role that is a recon gameplay role. But what we're also doing to kind of to bring this even further in terms of unlocking the sandbox is that we're saying that, take Casper for example. He's a recon type of specialist. His particular gadget that he uses, that only he can use, is the recon drone. But aside from the recon drone, Casper can bring a shotgun, a sniper rifle, an SMG, an LMG, whatever you want to put on Casper, you can put on Casper. You can put a rocket launcher on Casper to couple with the recon drone. You can put as a throwable. You can equip him with C4. So we get away from that space as well, where, as we kind of seen in previous games, where on certain maps that were vehicle heavy, you just saw pretty much one class being played, the one that can counter vehicles. But now you choose your gameplay role, and then we have a whole array of open gadgetry that you can just freely choose from. So we see a better diversity in terms of gameplay styles across all our maps when we're playing the game.
So the specialists are quite the departure from the traditional class system we've grown accustomed to with the franchise. The reaction from the Battlefield crowd has also been noticeable, but I'm afraid it resembles the reaction to the attrition system from Battlefield 5. I've seen people say they'd rather create and play as their own characters instead of predetermined ones, and they also want the old class system back. So it's obviously a controversial change, and I want to share my own reservations as well. But let's first look at the specialists announced so far. We've known about the first 4 specialists for a couple months now, but we can expect 10 at launch, with more coming with the live service. A few weeks ago, EA and DICE released a trailer highlighting each of the 4 specialists. So let's watch it first before we dive into each of them.
Time to go to work.
Let's get started.
I need first aid!
Let's not help!
Thanks!
I've got you, hold on. You're alive, but not safe.
Let's begin, please.
Ready.
First we have Mackay, who's an assault type specialist, who uses a grappling hook as a specialty to move freely around the maps. It should fit perfectly with his trait Nimble, which enables him to aim down sights without suffering any movement penalty. Then we have Boris, who's an engineer specialist, and his specialty is a sentry gun, which he can place down to defend locations. It also locks onto enemies and spots them for him, and thanks to his sentry operator trait, it's even more combat efficient when he stands close to it. Falk is a support specialist with a focus on medic gameplay, as her specialty is the Siret pistol, which is used to heal teammates. Unlike other specialists, her combat surgeon trait enables her to revive teammates back to full health. Finally, we have Casper, who is a recon type specialist, with his specialty being a recon drone, which spots nearby enemies and detonates EMP blasts. His movement sensor trait gives him Spider-Man-like senses as he's alerted when enemies approach him. Those are the 4 specialists, but last month EA and DICE revealed a 5th specialist, along with some snippets of gameplay, so let's check it out.
Remember, this is bigger than us.
So Iris returns from Battlefield 4 as a playable specialist in Battlefield 2042, which I didn't expect, to be honest, so that's a cool surprise. Let's take a closer look at him and see what he brings to the battlefield. Iris is an engineer type specialist, with his specialty being the fortification system, so the universal mechanic from Battlefield 5 is back in 2042. We saw him place down a deployable cover and shoot down sentinel in the gameplay, which should block incoming fire and eliminate any incoming explosive. His veteran trait has gotten the most attention, however, because it allows him to spawn with body armor, which can be replenished from fallen enemies. If we look at this screenshot and zoom in on the heads-up display, we can see a blue armor symbol with the number 10 next to it, but that's not all. Notice how the blue bar above the green health bar is only just halfway full, which could indicate that he can actually wear about 25% armor in total. I think that's what freaked out a lot of people, and I've even noticed certain game changers expressing their concerns over the situation. On the surface it seems very overpowered, but I'm not sure how much it's gonna impact gunfights, as there could be counters to it, like AP rounds. There's also the possibility that other specialists could have access to body armor, so perhaps it's not that bad after all, but only time will tell. Now, with all the details surrounding the specialists out of the way, here's what I have to say about them, including some early feedback. My biggest concern is that class-specific weapons have been scrapped entirely, so every specialist can now equip whichever primary weapon they want. That's a massive change, as it's always been a core pillar of the Battlefield franchise, and I'm afraid it's gonna be a nightmare to balance. We already saw the light version of this in Battlefield 4, where I believe carbines and shotguns were all kit weapons, and even then it was a problem. On Locker and Metro you could encounter recon players with shotguns who would put down spawn beacons behind the enemy and then repeatedly ambush them. In the context of Battlefield 2042, imagine if you play as an assault specialist with an assault rifle and you locate an unsuspecting recon specialist. You would probably go for the melee takedown then, because you would expect him to carry a recon weapon, right? Well, think again, because he could turn around at the last second and shoot your face off with a shotgun. You don't expect that to happen, because when you find an enemy, it's hard to see their weapon, so instead you determine their role based on appearance. I fear all kit weapons will lead to some inconsistent engagements, which will only cause frustration, as you can't make out the weapons players equip. This actually ties nicely into my next concern, which is visual appearance of specialists and their customization options. We don't know a whole lot about it yet, but DICE have said that, quote, the same 2 specialists can look vastly different when wearing different skins, end quote. I just hope we don't get a repeat of Battlefield 5, where every class could wear the same skins, making it impossible to distinguish between classes. That, coupled with weapon options for specialists, are crucial aspects to nail in terms of balance, so I really hope DICE know what they're doing. Another aspect I'm skeptical about is that any specialist can choose to carry a medical crate, supply crate, or alternatively a rocket launcher or C4. I'm afraid this will water down the gameplay and reduce teamwork, as specialists barely complement each other now, since they can use the same loadouts. This could lead to more lone wolf play instead of squad play, as you're now more inclined to pick a loadout that makes you less reliant on your squad mates. It might even introduce some questionable specialist loadouts, such as Falk with an LMG, supply crate, C4 and Surret pistol, with self-heal capability. That sounds pretty overpowered to me, because with this setup you would never need help from teammates, as you can basically take on any challenge yourself. I think it would be better in terms of balance if each specialist had exclusive access to suitable equipment, thus emphasizing their roles even more. That means the medical crate should be exclusive to Falk, and the supply crate exclusive to a support specialist focused around ammo distribution. Likewise, the assault engineer and recon specialists should all have their own exclusive equipment. It's basically how the old games handled it, so DICE could take inspiration from, say, Battlefield 4 and then work out what equipment they should have. This would also make kit switching with a fallen specialist viable again, as you would likely have access to their exclusive equipment. DICE haven't spoken about kit switching for Battlefield 2042, but I think it was a huge mistake to reduce it to weapon switching in Battlefield 5. It used to be a staple of the Battlefield franchise, so I really hope they go back to kit switching in 2042. When it comes to traits of specialists, I have a few question marks, because some of them seem a little out of place. First of all, I think Falk's combat surgeon trait is unnecessary, as it could easily be integrated into her specialty, the Surret pistol. We saw her use a defibrillator in the specialist overview trailer, but the Surret pistol should then replace it and basically become a revive syringe. An alternative trait could then be health provider, or whatever DICE wanted to call it, which would imply that teammates could grab health from her. I believe that's a crucial feature to have back in Battlefield 2042. Provided a support specialist focused around ammo distribution comes to the game as well, they should also inherit this trait, albeit with ammo. I just don't want to see the same implementation as in Battlefield 5, but rather want the fully fledged Battlefield Hardline version. A few years ago, I sent this Twitter thread to a DICE developer on how it should be implemented, and although it was for BF5, it also applies to 2042. Feel free to pause the video if you want to read the whole thing, or click the link in the video description, but let's continue. Casper's movement sensor trait is another one that seems very questionable to me, because I think it could turn out to be way overpowered. The Specialist's overview trailer showed that a red glow would appear on screen when an enemy snuck up behind him. But what should the enemy have done? He looked pretty stealthy to me, so I don't think he could have done anything differently to avoid triggering Casper's movement sensor. For this reason, I think DICE should consider reducing its effectiveness, so enemies still have a chance to surprise him and grab his dog tags. Another thing I believe DICE need to clarify before launch is whether or not specialists are locked to factions, namely the US and Russia. I think it's important to know, because the specialists have different nationalities, so it's not clear which faction they should be fighting for. During the gameplay reveal, we saw McKay and Falk playing for the US faction, while Casper played for the Russians. We didn't get to see Boris in action until the recent Specialist overview trailer, and since he's Russian, I was surprised to see him on the US faction. Perhaps this means any specialist can play for any faction, but I don't hope it's the case, as it wouldn't feel right if Irish played for the Russians. The same goes for the other specialists, except Boris, as none are from the US or Russia, but what factions they should be locked to is anybody's guess. I just think it would be a mess if specialists get mixed between factions, not just from a visual standpoint, but especially from an audio standpoint. What do I mean by that? You see, callouts have become an integral part of Battlefield, so it wouldn't work having the same specialists on both sides. Remember, they have different nationalities, thus separate languages, which would make it impossible to distinguish their callouts from friend or foe. In past Battlefield games, you always knew which faction you were playing with and against, because they didn't share the same language or dialect. Hopefully DICE take this into account when they put the finishing touches on the game before launch. The last two aspects I'd like DICE to address aren't directly linked to specialists, but still important factors in terms of the overall gameplay flow. First of all, I'm curious to find out if DICE plan on bringing back health stations and resupply stations from Battlefield 5. I think players would appreciate that, especially if they move forward with my proposed equipment restrictions for specialists. That would give players more options to obtain health and ammo, and it worked very well in Battlefield Hardline, which was a game without attrition. In conjunction with that, I think DICE should expand upon the vehicle call-in system and give players the option to also call in a supply crate. That was a great mechanic in Battlefield 5 because it improved the flow of play, as squad leaders and teammates could basically get supplies on demand. It should fit perfectly with Battlefield 2042 and its massive maps, but if implemented, the current supply crate should then be renamed into Ammo Crate. That's basically everything I wanted to cover on specialists, but as you can probably tell, there's plenty of things for DICE to address before launch. Hopefully most of our concerns will be addressed with the open beta later this month, although I don't expect everything to be addressed. We probably have to wait until launch before all aspects have been taken care of, but I really believe it's crucial for DICE to get all of them right. However, that's just my take on specialists, so now I'd like to hear what you think about them. Are you happy with how they work, or do you want the old class system back? How do you feel about playing as pre-made specialists versus creating your own? Sound off in the comment section down below, and remember to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. If you want to be updated about future content, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and also check out my social media in the video description. Before I go, I just want to thank everyone who helped me surpass 100 subscribers recently. And thanks to you, we're already closing in on 150 subscribers. That's pretty amazing, so thanks for all the support. But with that said, my name's Andy, thank you for watching, and take care guys.